Can this $300 2002 S-Work still work on today's trails, or is this bike obsolete? Let's find out. In case you missed it, I've already rebuilt the shocks and painted the frame in previous videos. But with everything removed, it's a perfect time to try out my brand new ultrasonic cleaner. After a few minutes, some parts turned out great, but any part that was anodized was completely ruined by the degreaser. I thought I'd be okay because the degreaser was non-corrosive, but look what it did to the cranks. It's funny though, I think the silver cranks will go better with the paint scheme. I'll use a little bit of polish on them and it'll look like I meant to do that. Phew, disaster averted. I think an ultrasonic cleaner is only good for chain and cassette cleaning. And that's it. But let's get this frame assembled. When I finally get to ride this bike, I don't want any excuses if it doesn't do well. If it's an awful ride, it'll be because of the geometry, not the components. So the budget headset that came on this bike needs to go. Instead, I picked up this used Chris King headset. If you've been around cycling for a while, you've dreamt about one of these headsets. I always wanted one as a kid, but could never justify the cost, upwards of $180, and I still wonder why they cost so much. These old RockShox SID forks have 28mm stanchions. I really hope that they don't flex too much on the trail. Several aspects of this bike are very dated, like these 640mm wide bars and the 100mm long stem. And this is where I draw the line. We don't use bars this skinny anymore because it makes the bike super twitchy and very unstable. And that sounds dangerous. So I'm going with 780mm wide bars off my polygon. And to figure out what stem length I need, I'll do a quick janky measurement from the seat tube to the bars, and then choose the stem length from there. The biggest worry about this build is the Shimano XTR V brakes. No mountain bikes have V brakes anymore, and I don't even know if they'll stop that well. An easy solution would be to throw on some disc brakes, but these hubs aren't disc compatible, and new wheels would cost a fortune. So I'm gonna give them a chance with some new brake pads and some new cables. But real quick, I've never even rode or sat on this bike. Now that I have a rolling chassis, I am dying to see how it fits. I'd say the jank stem measurement worked out great, but now that I'm cycling the fork a few times, it doesn't seem like it's going through the entire travel stroke. It looks like it's only about 60mm of travel, and it's supposed to be 80mm. So I gotta rip this fork apart again. The air shaft and damper look intact, but what I think happened is the negative air chamber had too much volume. So the problem should be fixed now. I am so glad the fork didn't have a fatal flaw. If any big parts like shocks or wheels aren't usable, I might have to pull the plug on this whole restoration. But now it's time for tires. These are Mavic Crossmax wheels, and when they came out, they were game changers. They used super thick spokes and were able to get away with only 18 spokes in the front and 20 for the rear. But from what I've heard, these wheels are actually pretty strong. The rim bed is seamless and the nipples screw directly into the rim, so going tubeless is a breeze. Just install a valve and no tape is required. And lucky for me, used 26-inch tires are super easy to find. Now onto the Shimano XTR drivetrain. This was one of the best drivetrains you could buy in 2002, but it has a 3x front derailleur, something that I've never worked on before. I hope I can figure it out. I'd love to do a 1x conversion, but I'm not gonna spend a couple $100s on a new drivetrain, especially on this unproven bike. Instead, I bought this new Jaguar cable set to breathe some new life into the drivetrain and give it a fighting chance. Well, the left shifter doesn't work. I've been messing with it non-stop and it just doesn't look like it can shift into the third gear. I feel like there's a hiccup every step of the way with this build. Oh wait, I have a front shifter laying around. This Shimano Dior shifter came off the Trek Fuel and it shifts all 3 gears. Phew, easy fix. I will say that this drivetrain shifts really good after some tuning, and I'm pretty impressed. But while working back here, I'm hearing some air leaking out of the spoke holes. And that's not supposed to happen. So that must mean that the valve isn't sealed properly on the rim bed. This could be a pretty big issue. With the valve stem out, I'm seeing some major gouges on both front and back rims. So the only solution that I can think of is building up the hole with some handy tape. I'm trying out this Maxima tubeless sealant that they sent me. It's said to last for 6 months and it kind of smells like cookies and cream. All right, that did the trick. I was super stressed out that these wheels were ruined. With all the issues that we've had so far, if the wheels were shot, I was ready to scrap this whole build. But now we're officially in the home stretch. Need to tie up some loose ends and get everything clean, even polished. But now this bike is ready to go. Was all this work a waste of time? Will these rim brakes even stop me? I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous. This could be downright dangerous with this older bike and these rim brakes. Right when I dropped in, I instantly missed not having a dropper. Then I heard some squeaking coming from the rear shock, and I think it might have been leaking air despite the rebuild. And the shock was very bouncy. Surprisingly, the brakes worked pretty good. Although when I was braking, I felt the fork flexing so bad that the front wheel was moving back and forth while I was braking. Super sketchy. The chain slap was unreal. And I even dropped the chain once, which gouged my beautiful new paint job. Then around the last corner of the Saga test loop, I heard a real bad noise, followed by a smell. Turns out the rear wheel was flexing so bad that the tire rubbed on the frame. It was then I realized that this bike is not quite ready for today's trails, and especially not a full gas time test loop. But I'm not done yet.